Question number 1. We have 3 times 7 squared plus 5 and parentheses divided by 6 minus 3. Take a second, try to answer this question. All right, so let's start to go over the explanation. So what we have here is an order of operations problem. And when we have order of operations, we follow parentheses, exponents, then multiplication and division, whichever comes first left to right, and then finally addition and subtraction, again, whichever comes first left to right. So when we have this here, we first start with our exponents inside the parentheses, so that's 7 squared. 7 squared is 7 times 7, so that's 3 times 49 plus 5 divided by 6 minus 3. Next, we have 49 plus 5, which gives us 54. So I have 3 times 54 divided by 6 minus 3. You might have heard me say times for 3 times 54. When we have a number outside of a parentheses, it indicates multiplication. So since that 54 is still in the parentheses, we now can drop them to multiply the two together. So we get 162 divided by 6 minus 3. Still have division, so 162 divided by 6 is going to give me 27. 27 minus 3 ends us up with 24. So our correct answer, 24. Question 2. We're going to solve for x. 2 parentheses 3x minus 1 end parentheses minus 2 parentheses x plus 5 end parentheses equals 12. All right, so let's get into the explanation for this problem. Now, the first thing that we have to do when we have a number outside the parentheses is multiply that number by both numbers inside, or whatever's inside the parentheses, making sure that you include the sign in front. So for example, 2 in front is positive, so 2 times 3x gives me 6x. 2 times a negative 1 gives me a minus 2. Now, same thing is going to happen with the other parentheses and this negative 2. So we have negative 2 being multiplied by both numbers inside as well. So negative 2 times x gives me a minus 2x, and negative 2 times 5 gives me minus 10. So that gives me a negative 10 equals 12. Now, the next thing we're going to do is combine our like terms. So anything with an x gets combined. So 6x minus 2x gives us 4x. We have minus 2 minus 10 gives us a negative 12, and that all equals 12. Now it's just a simple algebra problem. We add 12 to both sides. These 12s cancel out, and we're left with 4x is equal to 24. Divide both of these by 4, divide by 4, and we are left with x equals 6. Question 3. 92 pounds is equal to how many kilograms? Round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. So the first thing we do here is we look at the units we're using. We have pounds and we have kilograms. So the first thing that we need is a conversion. And our conversion, and the same one we can use, is that 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. When we have this, we can set up a proportion to cross multiply and solve. So we have 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds is equal to x kilograms, because that's what we're solving for, over 92 pounds, because that's what we have. Keeping units in the same spot, kilograms both on top, pounds both on the bottom. Now we cross multiply. So I like to start with the x value, so 2.2 times x just gives us 2.2x, which is equal to, we have 1 times 92, which gives us 92. We divide both sides by 2.2 to solve for x, and we get x is equal to 41.818, and you see it'll continue forever. 1/8 repeats on. So problem says round to the nearest hundredth, so we underline our hundredths place, which is the 1. The 8 tells the 1 to round up to become a 2. Everything else turns to 0, so our correct answer is 41 and 82 hundredths. Question 4. Solve 68 and 567 thousandths minus 13 minus 2 and 43 hundredths. All right, so in this problem, try it out, and then we'll go over it. Now, you can solve this problem two different ways. You can subtract both at the same time if that helps, or you can subtract one at a time. So we'll just subtract one at a time. So we'll take 68 and 567 thousandths, and we're going to subtract 13. Making sure that you line them up by their decimal points. We can add some placeholder zeros in and subtract. 7 minus 0 is 7, 6, 5. We bring down our decimal point. 8 minus 3 is 5, and 6 minus 1 is 5. So we subtracted 13, and we have our last part to do is 2 and 43 hundredths. Again, lining up by that decimal point, we can add a placeholder 0 if that helps. 7 minus 0, 7. 6 minus 3, 3. 5 minus 4 is 1, decimal point. 5 minus 2, 3. 5 minus nothing, 5. So our final answer is 53 and 137 thousandths. Question number 5. We have 2x plus 5y equals 19. 4x plus 3y equals 17. What are the values of x and y? All right, in this problem, we have something called a system of equations. And what we want to do, because we have two variables, we want to get rid of one of them. So if I take 2x plus 5y equals 19, 4x plus 3y equals 17. Now, you're going to look for numbers that can easily go together, and I'll show you what I mean by that. For example, we want to get rid of one of these values. I noticed that 2 in the 2x is a factor of 4 in 4x, so that's where I'm going to focus. I'm going to get rid of the x value first. How do we do that? Well, we make the x values the exact same number so that they would cancel out. I do that by multiplying the entire first equation by 2. That's a proportional relationship. So that actually gets me 4x plus 10y equals 38. Then I have 4x plus 3y equals 17. Now I think I have two positive 4x's. I want these x values to cancel out. Would 4x plus 4x give me, would that cancel out, or subtraction? In this case, we are going to subtract everything inside, and that's the most important part to remember. So 4x minus 4x, those cancel. 10y minus 3y is going to give me 7y, and I have 38 minus 17 is going to give me 21. Now I have 7y equals 21. I can just solve for y. Divide by 7, y equals 3. Now, that might help with some of the things that you've chose, but say you had multiple options, you have y equals 3, you just put it back into the problem. You can choose whichever one you want. So let's do 2x plus 5y equals 19. We have 2x plus 5 times 3, since that's the y value, equals 19. 2x plus 15 equals 19. Subtract 15 from both sides, and we get 2x equals 4. Divide by 2, we get x equals 2. So we want the answer where x is equal to 2, y is equal to 3, right here. Question number 6. Convert 21.4 degrees Celsius into degrees Fahrenheit. With this conversion, you can memorize just one of them and use it all the time. So the one that I use is degrees Fahrenheit is equal to degrees Celsius times 1.8 plus 32. So we have our degrees Celsius, we just plug that in. So we have degrees Fahrenheit equals 21.4 times 1.8 plus 32. Order of operations is we have to do what's inside first. So we multiply 21.4 times 1.8. We get 38.52. So we get degrees Fahrenheit equals 38.52. And we add 32 to that, which then gives us 70.52 degrees Fahrenheit. Right here. Question number 7. A soccer team with 16 players gets a donation of $7,296 from a small local business to share equally. Each of the team members agrees to donate $137 to a local charity, pay $117 towards transportation for the team, and to spend $32 on dinner. How much money will each player have? All right, so let's take this sentence by sentence. But take a second if you need to answer it. All right, with word problems, let's take the sentence that we see. We read the whole thing, now let's start to interpret. Soccer team has 16 players. They get a donation of $7,296 that they're going to equally share. So I know that this amount here, 7,296, that's going to be divided by 16. And when I do that, 7,296 divided by 16, I get that each player has received $456. And that's the amount of money that each player has. That good indicator of shared equally. Each team member agrees to donate, so each one is donating $137, they're paying $117, and spending $32. These are all costs. So what we can do is find the total cost of everything each player is spending. So 137 plus 117 plus 32, add those together. 7, 7's 14, that's 16. 4 plus 5 gives me 8 and $286. So we know that they spent $286 and they have $456. So $456 minus $286 is going to give me 0. That's a 3. 5 becomes 15. 7, $170. So that would be the answer here. All right, question number 8. 7 gallons are equal to blank ounces. All right, we have another conversion problem where we're going from gallons to ounces. This one is all on the same standard side. So we're going from gallons to ounces. So one thing to remember is it's gallons, quarts, pints, cups, and then ounces. So we are going all the way down. So if it helps you to write out a chain, that's good to do as well. Whether you work up or backwards, right, what's going to happen is up to you. Now we're going from a larger unit to a smaller unit. So we are going to use a multiplication chain to help us out here. We're going to be multiplying. So one thing to remember, gallons to quarts, there's 4 quarts in a gallon. So we'd multiply the gallons times 4. Quarts to pints, there is going to be 2 pints in a quart. There's also 2 cups in a pint, and there are 8 ounces in a cup. So you can do this a number of ways. You could multiply all these numbers together and get what the whole number should be multiplied by, or do it individually. So we'd start with 7 times 4 gives me 28. We took care of that. This would be 28 quarts. Times 2 is going to give me 56 pints. Cross that one out. Pints to cups times 2 again is going to give me 112 cups. Times 8 is going to give me 896 ounces. Question number 9. Solve 25 and 66 hundredths times 8 and 342 thousandths. And we're going to round that answer to the nearest hundredth. When we multiply decimals, we do not line up the decimal point in the beginning. We do not pay attention to it. So both of these numbers have the same number of digits. They both have 4, so it does not matter which one goes on top. I visually prefer to put the number with the larger amount of digits on top, but that's also, again, up to you. So not lining up our decimal points, and we're going to pretend and multiply like normal. So we'll work through this multiplication. 2 times 6 is 12. Drop the 2, carry the 1. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So first round, there we go. And I'm just going to erase, well, there we go. Erase some of what we just put up there. So now we're going to do our second level. The 2 has been done. I'm going to put one placeholder 0 in and then continue. 4 times 6, 24. Drop the 4, carry the 2. 4 times 6 again, 24. Plus 2 is 26. Drop the 6, carry the 2. 4 times 5 is 20. Plus 2 is 22. Drop the 2, carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. So I'm going to put that whole down there. I'm going to get rid of these so we can get to our next number. The 4 is done. We're now going to put 2 placeholder zeros in when we do our 3. 3 times 6 is 18. So I'm going to drop the 8, carry the 1. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19. Drop the 9, carry the 1. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Drop the 6, carry the 1. And then we have 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And cutting it real close to those words. All right. Again, we are going to erase, and let's get to our last number, which is the 8, which will now, you guessed it, is going to have 3 placeholder zeros. We now have 8 times 6 is 48. Drop the 8, carry the 4. 8 times 6, 48, plus 4 is 52. Drop the 2, carry the 5. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 5 is 45. Carry the 4. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. All right, so we have all these digits here. What we're going to do is add them together. So I'm just going to line this up real quick to make sure all my numbers are lined up. Wonderful. 2 plus all those zeros, 2. 3 plus 4, 7. 1 plus 6 plus 8 is going to give me 15. Drop the 5, carry the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. Well, actually, let's do it this way. 8 plus 2 is 10. 9 plus 1 is 10, that's 20, plus 5 is 25. Drop the 5, carry the 2. 2 plus 6 is 8, plus 2 is 10. 0, add the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 7 is 9, plus 5 is 14. Carry the 1. 1, 2. Perfect. Now, this is not your final answer. What we have to do is think how many numbers were after the decimal point in your problem. So if we look at our problem, we had the 6 and the 6 were behind the decimal. 3, 4, and 2 were behind the decimal. So 2 numbers behind the decimal plus 3 numbers behind the decimal means we should have 5 numbers behind the decimal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Decimal point goes right here. Our question says nearest hundredth. So if we look at 214 decimal point, we know that this first 5 is in the hundredths place. So we write that down and the number behind it to help us round. 5, we look behind, is another 5, which tells this 5 to turn into a 6. So we have 214 and 6 hundredths, and that would be your answer. Question 10. The scale on a blueprint for a house is 1.2 inches for every 6 yards. If one side of the house is 15 inches long on the blueprint, what is the actual length of the side of the house? Now, even though this is scaling, a lot of proportions come up. What we can see here is that we have a full ratio. We have 1.2 inches for every 6 yards. We have that. Now, we also know that one side of the house is 15 inches long. So I'm going to keep 15 inches up here, and I'm going to put that over X yards because we do not know how many yards are there. When I have this, I can now cross multiply and solve. So I like to start with the variable to keep it on the left. Just the traditional way of keeping it, 1.2x is equal to And now we do 6 times 15, which gives us 90. So now we're going to divide both sides by 1.2. And we are left with x is equal to 75. So we know that this is 75 yards. Be careful because this one says inches. So our correct answer is 75 yards. Question 11. Max has 2.5 times the number of marbles that Jacob has. Jacob has 34 marbles. Stephen has 0.2 times the number of marbles that Max has. How many marbles does Stephen have? All right, try it out, see what happens. When we are given a problem like this that has a lot of names, it's in your best interest to just write out the names. So we have Max, Stephen, and we have Jacob, and then we fill in. So it says Max is 2.5 times the number of marbles that Jacob has. So we know that Max's is 2.5 times J, or whatever Jacob has. Jacob actually has 34 marbles. And it says Stephen has 0.2 times the number of marbles that Max has. So that's a 0.2 times M. So when you look at these, we already have Jacob's number. Jacob's number can be used to help us figure out which one. Well, Jacob's number can be used to figure out Max's number. So Max's number is 2.5, then times 34. When we do 2.5 times 34, we get 85. Now we know that Max has 85 marbles. Jacob has 34, but the question is asking about Stephen. And Stephen is 0.2 times Max's number. So we take 0.2 times 85, and that's going to give us 17. So we know Stephen has 17 marbles. Question number 12. For 3 shifts, the worker collects 14 devices. He collected a batch of devices in 18 shifts. How many devices were there in this batch? All right, again, we are given a full ratio in the beginning. We know it's 3 shifts for 14 devices. So I'm going to put that. That's 3 shifts for 14 devices is equal to, he collected a batch of devices in 18 shifts. So we're going to look for 18 shifts and X devices. Now, again, you can do 2 things here, so I may show you something different. You can look for what we call a multiplier. So for example, 3 was multiplied by what to give us 18? I know 3 times 6 is 18, and to make sure that everything stays proportional and equal, whatever we do to the top, we have to do to the bottom. So we also have 14 times 6. So if I do that, 14 times 6, that gives us 84 devices. Could you have cross-multiplied and solved? Absolutely. If that's the method you love, go for it. Question 13. 13 centimeters is equal to how many inches? Round your answer to the nearest hundredth. Again, we're working with conversions. So we first have to highlight what conversion we're using. We're going from centimeters to inches. We know that 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So again, we can just set up a proportion for us to use. We know that 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. And what we're looking for is 13 centimeters. So we don't know the inches, so that's X inches over 13 centimeters. Now we can cross multiply and solve. So 2.54 times X is just going to give us 2.54X is equal to, and we just have 13 times 1, which is 13. Divide both sides by 2.54. And we are left with x is equal to 5.118. Why did I go only 3 places? Well, I could have continued, but it told us we were rounding off the number anyway to the hundredths, and we just need one more place value, so to the thousandths. So I have the 1, I look back, I see an 8, which tells the 1 to go up by 1, so this turns into a 2, a 0, which can we lay off, and our final answer is then 5 and 12 hundredths. Question 14. Solve 1 3/10 plus 2 5/8. Fractions are everybody's favorite, I already know. So what we're going to do is, this is addition. So for your first step, what you're able to do, you can take your whole numbers and add them together. So 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, and we're going to hold that on for later. What this does, it allows us to use smaller fractions instead of turning everything into improper. That just makes numbers larger. So for addition, this helps. So now I just have 3/10 plus 5/8. Now remember, when we have fractions, they have to have the same denominator in order for us to add them. So I need to find the least common multiple of 10 and 8. So that means if I count by 10 and 8, where do they meet? So you might be able to guess it, but 10, 20, 30, 40, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. You do this until you find the lowest number they share in common, which is 40. Should you choose a higher number, say you chose 80, that's fine, just means you'll have to simplify at the end. So we have 3/10, and we're going to make 3/10 and 5/8 now have a denominator of 40. So if I know that 3 times 4, or 10 times 4 is 40, I'm also going to do 3 times 4, which is 12. I know that 8 times 5 is 40. Well, that color doesn't show up so great, so we're not going to use that too much. So 5 times 5 is just going to give us 25. So I have 12 40ths and 25 40ths. Now I can add them together. So if I have 12 40ths plus 25 40ths, that's going to equal 37 40ths. Proper fraction, since the numerator is smaller. And if we looked at the factors, the only common factor that 37 and 40 have in common is the number 1. So this means that it is in simplest form. The answer is not 37 40ths. Do not forget to add your whole number from the front. So 3 plus 37 40ths is just going to give us 3 and 37 40ths. Right here. Question 15. If $17 is equivalent to 266 Egyptian pounds, how many pounds would you get with $121? Y'all have been working so hard through this. I know there's been a lot of conversions in the front and a lot of things that we've been dealing with, but y'all are doing a great job. So let's continue through it with this one. So again, you might have noticed we have a full conversion right here. So we have $17 is equivalent to 266 Egyptian pounds. I'm actually going to write that out. So $17 is equivalent to 266, and I'm just going to abbreviate it to EP. Honestly, if it's your own work, write whatever you want to, as long as you know what it is and you remember how to use it. Now, it says how many pounds did you get with $121? So I know that 121 is dollars, so that's going to go up here, and I'm looking for X Egyptian pounds. I can do the same thing I've done with this before. I can cross multiply. 17 times X, 17X, 266 times 121, not as easy to do mentally. So 266 times 121 is going to give us 32,186. We're going to then divide both sides by 17. And we get X is equal to 1,893.29. Now, you'll see that I don't see that answer here, but I do see this one, which is closest. That 0.3, we can assume that it was rounded from the 9 told the 3 to go up by 1. So in case you don't see the exact answer, you saw that all of these were rounded off to the nearest 10th. That might be a hint that you're also going to round your answer to the nearest 10th. Question 16. 93 meters is equal to how many kilometers? All right, let's go through it. One of the things to remember is your prefixes for your metric system. These are both metric. So if we went from largest to smallest, it would be... So I actually like to do it the opposite way since numbers are getting larger. We have King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. This just puts them in size order from smallest to largest so that you can easily see where you are going. So if it helps you, kilometers is the largest, millimeters is the smallest. So we are going from our units, which is a meter, a liter, or a gram. We're dealing with meters to kilometers. So we are going from a smaller unit to a larger, which always is an indication of division. Now, every step that you move, you would divide by 10, divide by 10, divide by 10, which is the same as moving the decimal point one spot to the left. So this is a total of 3 spots to the left. So we're going to take 93. Our decimal point is at the end, and we're going to move it once, twice, 3 times. Our decimal point is here. We're going to put in a placeholder 0, and it is a great habit for you to get into right now to also put a 0 in front. Again, still means that there's 0 holes, but decimal points are easily lost. So if you see it, keep the 1 in front. That means our answer is 93 thousandths kilometers. Question 17. 3 5/8 times 2 2/5. All right, so we have our 2 numbers here, and when we multiply mixed numbers, there is no other thing to do than then turn them into improper fractions. No other way to do it. If you did it any other way, it's not worth all the extra hassle you're going to put yourselves through. So 3 5/8, we take 8 times 3 is 24. Add 5 gives us 29/8. 2 2/5. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12, and we get 12/5. Now, what I really have is 29/8 times 12/5. For multiplication and division, we do not need common denominators, so that does not need to happen. So we just multiply across. 29 times 12 is going to give me 348. 8 times 5 gives me 40. Now, what this really means is, because I have to turn it back to a mixed number, is really 348 divided by 40. Now, if we do this, 348 divided by 40, we're going to get 8. So 8 times 40 is 320, and we have a leftover amount of 28/40. So what this problem says is 8 wholes, and we have 28/40. Again, I don't see that here, which is telling me that these numbers have something in common. So 28 and 40, we can simplify them. So 28 and 40 both share a common factor of 4. So I'm going to divide 28 by 4 and 40 by 4. 28 divided by 4 gives me 7. 40 divided by 4 is 10. And I bring my whole number over. So my final answer is 8 7/10. Some of you may guessed it, since 8 was the only whole number that's there. That is also great strategies to use, since this is a test that is timed. So if you saw that and went with it, no shame in that. If there was 2 8s, then you'd have to finish it and make sure that you fully simplified. Question 18. On a recent road trip, Orlando drove an unknown number of miles during his first week. He then drove 15 more miles in his second week and 25 fewer miles in his third week when compared to the first week. Write an expression that represents the total number of miles that Orlando drove in the 3-week road trip. There's a lot of information here, so the best thing that you can do is start to organize it. So if we look at the first week versus the second versus the third. On a recent road trip, Orlando drove an unknown number of miles during his first week. So I'm going to assign the first week X. We don't know anything about it. He then drove 15 more miles in his second week. So he drove 15 more miles in his second week. So that means that's the first week plus 15. And 25 fewer miles in his third week when compared to the first week. So if he drove 25 fewer miles, that's X minus 25. So here, we want the total number. So what we're going to do is add all weeks together. X plus 15 plus X minus 25. Now we just combine like terms. X gives us 3X plus 15 minus 25 leaves us with minus 10. So our final answer is 3X minus 10. Notice the said expression. We were not solving for X. An expression does not have an equal sign. So it just says write an expression for what is happening in this problem. The city's population has grown by 1/6 in 2020. And in 2021, it has grown by another 2/5 from 2020. If in 2019, the population was 155,880 people, what has it become in 2021? All right, so we know that we're dealing with, take a second. I just get too excited. Try it out, then we'll come and work it together. All right, so now we'll go through it. If we look at 2019, so we know we're looking at 3 years, 2019, 2020, and 2021. In 2019, we know the population was 155,880 people. We know that in 2021, it grew by 1/6. So it's whatever this amount was plus 1/6 of 2019. And in 2021, it grew another 2/5 from what it was in 2020. So we have a few steps here. So let's just take one at a time. So the city's population grew by 1/6. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to take, and this is for 2020, we're going to take 155,880 and we're going to multiply it by 1/6. That's going to let us know the population that has grown from 2019 to 2020. So that gives us 155,880 over 6, which is equal to 25,980. That means that's how many more people there are from 2019 to 2020. So I'm going to erase this up here. So let's look. We have 155,880 plus 25,980, and that's going to give us 181,860 people. Now we can figure out 2021. So 2021 is 2020's number, 181,860, and it's grown by another 2/5. So we're actually going to multiply this by 2/5. This is going to let us know the exact same thing in 2020, how many more people there were between 2020 and 2021. So when we do this, we end up with 363,720 divided by 5, which is equal to 72,744. So we're going to do the exact same thing. 181,000 $2,860 plus $72,744. What does that give us? $254,604, which is this choice right here. Congratulations, y'all. You are officially halfway through. So keep it up. Keep working through. You got it. Let's keep going. So question number 20. School shirts cost $6.50 each and pants cost $12 each. Thomas has $64 for his school uniform. Write an inequality to find combinations for how many shirts and pants Thomas can buy. All right. So some of these questions, and you have to use your inferencing skills. So try this out. Let's go back to it. All right. Let's interpret what we have here. I know that we're going to have an inequality. So that's going to be less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or a sign that is not equal to. Anything that is not an equal sign is an inequality. We also know that shirts cost $6.50 each, and pants cost $12 each, and he only has $64 for his school uniform. So if he only has $64, he could spend $64, but it has to be less than $64, right? It can't be more, he doesn't have it. So I know that this actually stands for less than or equal to 64. Then I look at what I know about cost. So if school shirts are $6.50 each, what is the relationship between how many school shirts you buy and the total cost? It's multiplication. So $6.50 times my shirt, or how many shirts I buy, is really just 650s. So I'm going to bring this down here, 650s, and we know it has to be less than or equal to $64. If you want to include the dollars, great. And we know that pants cost $12 each, the exact same relationship. So this should be 12 times the number of pants that are there. So I have 12 P's involved. Now I have to figure out what is the relationship between shirts and pants to get the total cost. Well, the amount you spend on shirts and the amount you spend on pants would get added at the cash register. So you know that relationship is addition. So now I look and see which one matches. I can get rid of these two because they don't have the correct sign. And less than or equal to, great. Last one right here. Question 21. If two even numbers are added to an odd number and the result is multiplied by an odd number, which of the following could be the result? All right, let's go through this. So just a quick reminder, odd numbers are going to end in 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. And an even number is going to end in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. Now with a question like this, I highly suggest you try out numbers to see what happens. So instead of just writing odd times odd or even plus even, actually use numbers. So we have two even numbers are added to an odd number. So that's what's happening first. So we have even plus odd. Now I'm not going to leave it like that. Let's just try even numbers. Let's make it simple. 4, 2, 3. I add that together. 4 plus 2 is 6 plus 3 equals 9. 9 is an odd number. So this whole situation is going to give me an odd number. So this is going to be an odd number. Now the following result is multiplied by an odd number. So we have an odd number, which was our result, times in another odd number. So if we tried this out, you can try this out as many times as you want to. Let's make it easy. 3 times 3. 3 is odd, times odd, another 3. 3 times 3 gives me 9. 9 is also odd. So our result should be an odd number. So 8, that's even, 297, 175. So these are your only two choices. The rest are even numbers. Question 22. 4x minus 12 is greater than or equal to 6x plus 2, and we need to solve for x. All right, let's jump right in. I'm going to draw that line down to remember that that's where we are moving numbers across. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to add 12 to both sides. We want all the whole numbers on one side, all the variables on another. So these cancel. We're left with 4x is greater than or equal to 6x plus 14. So now we're going to subtract 6x from both sides. When we do that, we're left with negative 2x. Our x's cancel, is greater than or equal to 14. Now we're going to divide by negative 2. When we divide by a negative number in an inequality, our sign flips. So because we're dividing by negative 2, our sign is first going to flip. And I'm going to write that down first because it's the easiest thing to forget. So we have x is less than or equal to 14 divided by negative 2 is negative 7. So x is less than or equal to negative 7. If you don't believe it about the sign flipping, choose a number that's less than negative 7, put it back into the problem and see if it works. So for this, I would try something like negative 10. So 4 times negative 10 minus 12 is greater than or equal to 6 times negative 10 plus 2. So that's negative 40 minus 12 is greater than or equal to negative 60 plus 2. Negative 40 minus 12, negative 52 is greater than or equal to negative 58. Negative 52 is greater than negative 58. It works. So that's how you can check to make sure your answer is correct. Write 0.932 as a fraction. All right, now first step is to actually read this the way that you were supposed to. So this is really called 0 and 932 thousandths. So if this is 932 thousandths, you really already said the fraction. So 932 divided by 1,000. So one thing you can do here, you were just trying to simplify this. So they're both even. Keep it easy for yourself. Divide both of these by 2. How did I know that I had to simplify? I did not see 932 over 1,000 in any of those answer choices. And because they're both even, we know that we're going to have to divide here. You will not have 2 even numbers in any simplest form fraction. So 932 divided by 2, that gives us 466 over 500. Now they're still both even, so I'm going to divide both by 2 again. That gives me 233 over, not 500, that's 250. So now I do see 233 over 250. The greatest common factor the two of those numbers have in common is the number 1, which is why it's in simplest form. Question 24. We have negative 4 minus 5, parentheses x minus 3, plus 5. Now, try this out, and then we'll go through it. All right, so the first thing to do is figure out what you're supposed to actually do with this problem. There's no direction, but I look at the answer choices, and I see that it's kept x's and it's kept whole numbers. So I'm going to go with the idea that I am simplifying this expression. So if we rewrite it, negative 5 or negative 4 minus 5, parentheses x minus 3 plus 5. Now, when we have a number like negative 5 outside of parentheses, that means that it's getting multiplied by each number inside. Most importantly, though, is to group the sign that's in front of it with that number. So we're not multiplying both x and 3 or minus 3 inside by 5, but by negative 5. So negative 5 times x is going to give me negative 5x. And negative 5, not just times 3, again, the sign in front. So negative 3 is going to give me a positive 15. So now I put my other numbers back. So negative 4 minus 5x plus 15 plus 5. Now I combine like terms. There's only one x value, so negative 5x comes straight down. That's used. Now I have minus 4 plus 15 plus 5. Order here for all addition doesn't matter. So if I do 15 plus 5, that's 20, minus 4 gives me plus 16. So which one looks like that? Down here. Notice how if you did negative 4 plus 15, that's just 11. Plus 5 gives you 16. So the order itself, when it's only addition and subtraction like this, you're going to get the same thing. Question 25. What is 15/8 as a decimal? All right, so in this question, we are taking a fraction and moving it into a decimal. What helps is to understand what a fraction is really saying. So 15/8 is really the same as saying 15 divided by 8. And when I divide 15 divided by 8, that gives me 1.875. So our correct answer is going to be 1.875 right here. All right, so let's look at question 26. The table below shows the scores of 5 students at an exam. We have a 76, 85, 93, 56, 61. Which of the following statements correctly describes the above information? Please select all that apply. There is no mode. The range is less than half of the median for this collection. The mean is equal to the median for this collection. The median is greater than the range for this collection, or the mean is greater than the median for this collection. Lot of information here. So most importantly though, is that we realize we need all 4 of our mean, median, mode, and our range. Now, the best thing to do is to always line up your numbers from least to greatest to start. It's just going to make your life that much easier since you do have to use that a few times. So we're going to look at 61 first. Nope. That's 56, 61, 76, 85, and 93. So let's knock out easy ones first. So range is the largest number minus your smaller number, your smallest number. So 93 minus 56 gives us 37. So our range is 37. Our mode is what number shows up the most. Every number only shows up once, so there is no mode. The median is what number's in the middle after the numbers have been lined up from least to greatest. So we find that 76 is in the middle, so that's going to be our median. Then we have to find the mean. So the mean is the average. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're actually going to add all of your numbers together. So we already have these here. Let's add them. 56 plus 61 plus 76 plus 85 plus 93. 371. And there are 5 numbers, so we divide 371 divided by 5. 74.2. Now, some of you may have asked, like, why did we have to do this first? We didn't look at any of the answer choices. Well, all those answer choices relied on the information that we had to find before we could answer the question. So now, if we look down, so which of the following statements correctly describes the information? Please select all that apply. There is no mode. When we look up, yeah, there is no mode. So I'm going to mark this one up. That's correct. The range is less than half of the median for this collection. So range, 37, is less than half of the median. All right, so half of the median is actually going to be 38. So the range is less than half. Cool, got it. Notice how much easier this is since we're not trying to figure out things at multiple times. The mean is equal to the median for this collection. Mean is 74.2, median 76. Nope. The median is greater than the range. Let's look back up. Median 76, range 37. So yes, that one is correct. And the mean is greater than the median for this collection. Let's look again. Mean, median, the median is greater, the mean is not greater, so these are our three answer choices that work. All right, y'all, we are getting so close to the end, so let's keep it going. Oscar ordered food delivery for his family. The total of the order was $122.19. If he was charged a $7 service fee and gave a 15% tip on the bill after the service fee, what was the final total of his order? All right, so let's dive into it. Ordered food delivery, the total of the order was $122.19. I know that that is just for the food because the rest of the question talks about things that got added on to that amount. He was charged a 7% service fee and then gave a tip. So we know the service fee is 7% of $122.19. And we know the tip is 15% of the dinner plus the service fee. So what can we figure out first? Well, we should figure out the service fee. When we have a percent, the best thing to do is turn both of our percentages into decimals. So 7%, if we just divided that by 100, gives us 0.07. 15% as a decimal divided by 100 equals 0.15. So what are we going to figure out right now? So we're going to do cost after the service fee. So if we take our amount, $122.19, we multiply that by 0.07. Again, multiplying because 0.07 is less than one whole. We're not even using it one whole time. So that means that anything that we multiply by a number less than one whole is going to give us a smaller number. The opposite is true for division. So $122.19 times 0.07 is going to equal 8.5533. Remember, this is money, so we're going to go to the second decimal place. So that's $8.55. So now I'm going to add this on to the amount. If I add that on to $122.19, I get $130.74. Now I can do total cost with the tip. Now I'm going to show you a different way to do this one as well. So we have our $130.74. Now, what I want you to think about is the tip is off of the total cost. So this is with the service fee. So you're going to pay 100% of your total cost and service fee plus 15% for the tip. That means you're really paying 115% of everything. So I can actually use this to my advantage. 115% as a decimal equals 1.15. So now I can do something between $130.74 and 1.15. Is our answer going to be larger or smaller than $130? Larger. Is my number right here, 1.15, going to be larger or smaller? Is it larger or smaller than 1? It's larger. So multiplying by a number greater than 1 gives us a larger number. So I'm going to take $130.75 times 1.15, and that's going to give me $150 and 35 cents. Notice how we didn't have to add anything on here? That's because we took care of that by using our total cost and the additional amount. So, correct answer, right here. Y'all, we are cruising, so let's keep it up. Question 28. What is the area of a circle with a radius of 9 inches? Use 3.14 for pi. This is a really great indicator that area of a circle involves pi, so use the hints that you can get them. So when I see area of a circle, I'm immediately going to write out my formula. Area equals pi r squared, or if you'd like to see it, it's pi times r times r. Totally fine whichever way you want to see it. So that means we need the radius, and we're using 3.14 for pi. So we have 3.14, and now we check to see if we have the radius. Problem gave us the radius, which is 9. So 3.14 times 9 times 9. If you have all the same operation, you can do the order however you want to. So 9 times 9 gives me 81. So 3.14 times 81. And what do we get? 254.34. Our units are inches, and area always has a squared. So it's 254 and 34 hundredths inches squared. There we go. An emergency room patient's heart rate dropped 30% to 63 beats per minute. What was the patient's heart rate prior to the drop in beats per minute? All right, different ways to handle this problem. Try it out, and then we'll go over it. So there are a few ways to solve this problem. I'm going to show you an easy fail-safe way to do this using proportions. So if we think about a proportion with percentages as we have percent and we also have an actual number amount, okay? So if we look, the patient's heart rate dropped 30% to 63 beats per minute. What was the patient's heart rate prior? So we're looking for what 100% was before it dropped. So we're missing the original amount, which was equal to 100%. The heart rate dropped 30%. So if it was at 100%, it dropped by 30%. That means the heart rate is 70% of where it was before. So 70% is actually equal to 63 beats per minute. Notice percents are all on one side, actual amounts are on the other. Now I can cross multiply and solve. So x times 70, that's going to give me 70x is equal to 63 times 100 is just going to be 6,300. Divide by 70, divide by 70, that gives us 90. Could you have used division for this? Yes, you could have actually set up 63 divided by 0.7 would have also given you 90. All right, y'all, we are officially in the 30s. This is question 30. What is the area of the following shape? All right, when you have an irregular shape like this, there's no formula to find the area of an irregular shape other than to break the irregular shape down into smaller pieces of shapes that you do know to find the area for. So in this case, squares, rectangles, whichever works. Now, you may have done this differently than I may be separating these into smaller shapes. What's most important is that your answer is the same. No matter how you break it down, the answer should stay the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for some reason, I like to cut things vertically. But what we have to check for is we now have 3 different rectangles. So we have A, B, and C. Now, each one of these needs a length and a width in order for us to solve it. And if we don't have it, that means we have to be able to find it. So area of a rectangle is just going to be length times width. So we need both. I know shape A has a length of 6 and a width of 2 because that's what's given. So I know rectangle A is going to be solved with 6 times 2. If I look at B, I know that B has, let's say this is the width, or one of the side lengths is 3, but I'm missing this side length here. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to call that X for a second. I know the relationship is multiplication, but I really need to figure out what that is. What I'm going to use is actually right here. If we look, I'm going to look at the full vertical line is 5 centimeters. So from here to here is 5. I also see this little piece right here is 3 centimeters. So I know from here to here is 3. So if the whole thing is 5, right? I'm just going to make that a little bit easier for you to see. So if the whole thing is 5, how much is that little piece? 5 minus 3 is 2. So this X value right here must be 2 centimeters. So that means that this rectangle here is going to be 3 times 2 centimeters. Let me get then to box C. C has a full length of 5. Do not fall into the trap of using this 3. The 3 is only partially the length of C. The total length is 5. The width is 2. So this is going to be 5 times 2. Now I just find the area of all 3 of them. So area of A, 6 times 2, that's going to be 12 centimeters squared. B, 3 times 2 is just going to be 6 centimeters squared. And C is 5 times 2, so that's 10 centimeters squared. Add all 3 of them together. 12 plus 6 is 18, plus 10 is 28. So your final answer, 28 centimeters squared. And boom, you've just tackled an irregular shape. Question 31. An event coordinator has a budget of $680. If she spent $75 on balloons and $65 on invitations, what percent of her budget does she have left? All right, we are looking for percent. And when we deal with percent, that's going to be part over your whole. So your whole is what is equal to 100%. So in this case, I know that the whole is going to be $680. Now, what we have to find the percent of is how much she has left. And we know she spent $75 and $65. So I'm going to find the total cost that she spent on those 2 items. So 75 plus 65, that is going to give me $140. So that's $140 spent. We're looking for how much she has left. So $680 minus 140 tells me that she has $540 left. So we are trying to figure out 540 is what percent of 680. Step 1. We're really going to take that and do 540 divided by 680. Take a look at your answers. All of them only have one number after the decimal. I'll tell you what to do with that in a second. So 540 divided by 680 is going to give us 0.79411, and we can keep going. The second step to turn a decimal into percent is to multiply it by 100. That's the same as moving your decimal point once, twice. That's going to give us 79.1 or 411%. Again, notice how all of these answers only have one number after the decimal. Underline the 4. 1 tells the 4 to stay the same. So our final answer is 79.4 And that's our top answer right here. Question 32. Jessica is wrapping a gift in a rectangular box with gift wrapping paper for a birthday party. The box is 11 inches long, 8 inches wide, and 5 inches tall. How much gift wrapping paper will she need to wrap the box? All right, so let's go over this problem. When we see something that we want to find, we want to surround an entire shape in something. So like think paint, think wallpaper, think wrapping paper. We're actually looking for surface area. Now, when we do surface area, you can draw out the net, which just means what this looks like as if it was, imagine if you cut the box apart into each of its sides. Or I'll show you this little trick. When it's a rectangular prism, you're going to end up with 3 different things. You're going to have 2 large boxes, 2 what I'll call medium, and then 2 small. Now, what do I mean? 2 largest means you're going to use the 2 largest measurements that we have. So we have 11 times 8. And if you imagine a cereal box, each side has a pair that's exactly like it. So the front and the back, top and the bottom, or the 2 sides. So we're going to multiply those together. So 11 times 8 times 2 gives me 176 inches squared. Now the 2 medium, what this means is I'm going to take my largest value, which is 11, and my smallest, which is 5, and I'm going to multiply that by 2. 11 times 5 is 55, times 2 is 110 inches squared. Next, I have my 2 smallest, which is 8 times 5. Those are my smallest values. Times 2, 8 times 5 is 40, times 2 is going to be 80. If I put these 2 together, or not 2, all 3 together, 176 plus 110 plus 80, that's going to give me a total of 366 inches squared. Question 33. Order the following fractions from least to greatest. We have negative 5/6, 1/6, 1/2, and negative 1/9. All right, so in a problem when you're given this, well, the best thing to do is turn them all into decimals. So I'm going to take my 2 negatives first. I have 2 negative values. I'm going to separate them. Negative 5/6. Let me rewrite this for you. Start to jump over what I want to do. So negative 5/6. Just turn them into decimals. So do negative 5. Negative 5 divided by 6 is equal to, we get negative 0.833, and that repeats. Now I look at negative 1/9 is the same as negative 1 divided by 9, and that's going to give me negative 0.11111. So that helps there. Now I'm going to continue this with the rest. So I have 1/6 is the same as 1 divided by 6, and 1 divided by 6 is 0.1666. Continues, and then we have 1/2 is equal to 1 divided by 2, which is equal to 0.5. So if we look at our negative numbers first, they both share 0. The first difference comes in the tenths place. 8, a negative 8 is going to be less than a negative 1. So negative 8 and 33/100ths is going to be last, or the least. So I'm going to put that here. And I'm not going to take this as my final answer because we have to do something. Then I know that that's going to be followed by negative 0.111. And then I look here. First difference, again, comes in the tenths place. A 1 is less than a 5. So 0.1666 comes next. And then finally, 0.5 is the greatest. Now, one thing to do is to go look back at the values that you got them from. So negative 0.833 was really negative 5/6. So negative 5/6, then it's going to be followed by negative 1/9, then 1/6, and then finally 1/2. So you want the least number at the top. So if we were going to do this here, we'd want to take negative 5/6, negative 1/9, then 1/6, then 1/2. half. Question 34. Carrie buys a can of paint from the local hardware store. The radius of the paint can is 4 inches and it is 11 inches tall. If the paint can is only 1/2 full, what is the volume of paint inside it? And luckily this time we see that we are given a formula. So volume equals pi times r squared times height. So in this case, we're going to use 3.14 for pi. Good, we see that down here. So we're just going to plug in. So I know that v is equal to 3.14 times r squared, which is radius times radius. So my radius is 4. Multiply by 4 again, and my height is 11. So I'm just going to multiply all those numbers together. So 3.14 times 4 times 4 times 11. And that's going to give me 552.64 inches cubed. But remember, problem said only half full. So we're going to divide this number then by 2, which gives us 276.32 inches cubed. All right, some of these questions get tricky because they want you to pay attention to the directions that are in there. So even though we had the formula, there was something else to do as part of this problem. Y'all, we are so close. We are down to our final 4 questions, and we're going to order these from least to greatest. So same idea. What we're going to do is we're just going to turn everything into a decimal. So 2.4, already a decimal. -2 5/6, we are just going to do, so if we take, and we can actually do it right next to it. Why not? We can just take -5 divided by 6 and add 2 to it. So 5 divided by 6 was 0.833. We put a negative, so we just put a -2 on it, -2.833. There we are. 2.4 is already a decimal, so we don't have to worry about that one, which is great. 12/15, we just put in 12 divided by 15. And that is equal to 0.8. 17 divided by 8, we put in 17 divided by 8. And that's going to give us 2.125. And we have -217%. So remember, 217%, we divide that by 100, and that's going to give us -2.17. Now, luckily for us, our negative numbers are next to each other. And what we notice is that the first difference comes in the tens place. And again, a -8 is going to be farther away from 0 than a -1, which means that -2.833 is the least number. So where did that come from? -2 5/6. So why don't I write -2 5/6, then followed by -217%. Now I do my positive numbers. I can see that 17/8 and 2.4 both have a whole number in front, but 12/15 doesn't. So that means I know 12/15 must be next. Then, if I look at my positive numbers, there's a 1 in the 10th place and a 4 in the 10th place. A 4 is larger than a 1 on the positive side, so that must mean 17/8 comes next, followed by our greatest, which is 2.4. And then now, we just make sure that we match it. So, -2 5/6, -217%, 12/15, 17/8, 2/4. There you go. Question 36. 855 meters is equal to how many kilometers? All right, again, we are doing a conversion among metric units. So if it helps, again, King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. I order them this way because it goes from least to greatest, just like a number line, so you know how to follow along, and it's not different based on the acronym that you're using. So if we look, we're going from meters, which is our units, to kilometers. So we're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, which means we're going to divide. And we're going to divide by 10 for each step that we have to make. We have a total of 3 steps, which means the decimal point should make the number smaller. So we're going to move it to the left. So 855, a whole number has a decimal point after the ones place, and we're going to move it once, twice, 3 times. So we get decimal point 855, and it is a great habit to put that 0 in front. So we get 0.855 kilometers. What is the largest number that still rounds to 154? One thing to note about this is to make sure that you understand the ideas of rounding. So a number could have been rounded either up to 154, or it could have been rounded down or stayed the same for 154. So you have to think, what type of numbers would have to round up? In this case, I would look at my tenths place, or in this case, we have our hundredths. What it says is, this was rounded to the nearest whole, which means that if the number was rounded up, it had to start at 153, followed by 5 or more rounds up. So it has to be anywhere from 153.5, because all of these numbers have 2 digits after the decimal. I'll put a 0. So that's the smallest number that still rounds up. The largest number would be 154 that stayed the same. Because it was rounded to the whole, or the ones place, we're going to look at the tenths place. A 5 rounds up, which means a 4 or less rounds down. So the largest number that is going to be rounded is, if it's 50, this is going to end up being 49. Because the 4, if it was rounded to the tenths place, it would stay a 4. Whole number, that 4 is going to be what tells us how to round the ones place. The next number behind it isn't going to make much of a difference, so we choose the largest. So if we look here, which of these is the largest? I know it's not going to be 153 or 153. 154.5, that is actually larger than what we have here, so it will be this one, 154 and 23 hundredths. Even though I marked off 153, I wanted to check to make sure I had an answer. If we didn't, then we would go back to look at those 2 options. Luckily, we have 154 and 23 hundredths. Question 38, congratulations, you have made it to the end. You should be really proud. That's a lot of questions to go through. Let's get this last one down. So question 38. Ivy spends $5.85 for 3 pounds of fruit and $9 for 2.7 pounds of vegetables. Approximate the average cost per pound Ivy spent on the fruits and vegetables. All right, so here is what we are going to approximate. One of the things that we're going to go with is we have $5.85 for 3 pounds. So $5.85 is going to round to $6. And $9 is already a perfectly even number, so we have $9 here. We're going to add that together. That's going to be $15 total. Again, remember that our whole idea with estimation is to make numbers easy to use. If they're single digits, like $9 is, that's a really easy number to use. That's why we made $5.85 into $6 and not something like $5.90. We want these numbers to be the easiest possible to use. So same idea, 3 pounds, we're not going to change that number at all. 3 is a single digit number. It is super easy to use. 2.7 on the other hand, not. So we're going to round 2.7 to the nearest whole number. 7 tells the 2 to round up, so we also have 3, which tells us a total of 6 pounds. Now, this wants the average cost per pound. So think about it as if it's $15 for 6 pounds, and we want 1 pound, that's like dividing both of these numbers by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 15 divided by 6 is going to give us $2.50. So the best approximation we have is $2.50 per pound right here. Y'all, we have made it. Go celebrate, go enjoy yourselves, and I really look forward to working with you later. Go enjoy.